watching Monty TV. I'm Jackie Karsh, sitting down now with Zach Weiner. He is the co-founder and president of Overtime, a sports media company. Zach, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me all about Overtime. How does it work?
Yeah, so basically we noticed 3 years ago that there was this hole in the marketplace. If you were a Gen Z sports fan, for us, which means you're under the age of 30, you were not watching as much live sports. You didn't feel passionate about the legacy sports media brands that already exist, and we wanted to fill that marketplace. And so for the past 3 years, we built up a brand where we now have 27 million followers across the major social platforms. We do 1.4 billion video views every single month, providing content for this generation, and then making sure it's something that they feel a part of. They can buy our sweatshirts, they can buy our t-shirts, they can attend our live events. And when I talk to Gen Zers about why they love Overtime, they say it sounds like my friend. It's something that they can participate in.
What does it mean? Are they actually watching, say, a Laker game?
So you take a 16 or 17-year-old kid that's in high school, there are a lot of them that actually have millions of Instagram followers that are basketball players or football players, and they are major influencers for this next generation of fans. So we wanted to figure out a way to cover them at scale. So what we did was we built this technology called Flashback, where we still use it to this day globally, where I can send anyone in the world to a gym or a field, they hold open their phone, and when a highlight happens, they press a button, it goes back 15 seconds, captures the highlight, and sends it to our servers. So globally, we have all these highlights coming in, we see which athletes are the most interesting, and then the athletes that are really engaging for our audience, we then create long-form episodic content around their lives and different shows.
Are the big executives at ESPN, coming for you?
They're becoming increasingly aware of the dominance that we have over Gen Z, and I would say there's not a single sports media executive that I've heard talk at a conference or in the news that hasn't talked about the importance of Gen Z, and I think in that demo we're impossible to ignore.
Why do you think Gen Z's tastes are so different from the traditional sports watcher?
Yeah, I think part of it is that they have just so many more options. If you're a 45-year-old growing up, you really had one option. You turned on the TV and you checked out what was on cable. And now, even outside of sports, we actually have our own Fortnite team because of how popular Fortnite is. So there's just so many more options. So I think every single second of consumption just has to be extraordinarily compelling. And I think it also has to have a sense of community. We've seen that Gen Z really wants to come together and support similar things. And sports is that. So I think there is a lot of hope and actually a lot of growth potential for sports as an industry. It's just the legacy players also have to deal with a legacy audience that's used to consuming it in a certain way.
Where are people watching Overtime?
Yeah, they're watching. We tend to program in the places where they already are. So, for example, we're gigantic on TikTok. We're by far the biggest sports publisher on TikTok. We have over 10.
But TikTok is all about music.
Yeah, so for us, and I think this is very critical to understand about Gen Z, sports is not always so literal. It's not always what happens in between the lines. And so, for example, we have shows that are basketball shows, but we have rappers come onto the show. Or we take musical TikTok stars and we have them do certain things that are related to sports. And our audiences is like, oh, you're Overtime, you have to deal exactly with basketball and football and soccer. It's like, no, we're also creating culture and creating a brand that these influencers want to be part of.
And what about advertisements? Are you thinking about revenues?
Yeah. We've worked with over 20 advertisers that are spending 7 figures each with us in some cases because they are desperate to reach this Gen Z audience, and we're one of the few ways to do it in a very authentic and engaging way. What
do those advertisements look like?
Yeah, so there's a whole sort of suite of products that we offer, but generally we have these franchise shows that our audience is we have a show that's watched by 25 million people, and so similar to TV, a brand wants to come in and have their advertisement run before it, and then they want to sponsor the show. That's sort of a classic thing we do. We also run live events where sponsors can come in, and really it's about listening to what their needs are and creating content and experiences with them.
This generation that you're working with do move quickly to the next hot thing.
I think that sports as a whole is, it's been around for thousands of years, so I don't think it's a type of thing where Gen Z is going to flip off of sports. I do think that we have to be aware every single day about what trends are happening in the larger ecosystem and how Overtime can play into that. TikTok is a good example of that. And so I think as long as we have our ear to the ground, and one thing that's critical is we are building our business with these top athletes. And so I think top athletes will always have this celebrity quality to them and be aspirational. And they support us and we support them. So I think that helps keep us relevant too.